Welcome to Fort Grit Diamonds in the Rough, where we dive deep into vibrant stories of triumph in Fort Smith. In a city that demands grit, we celebrate the spirit of success against all odds. Join us as we uncover inspiring narratives exploring the journey, the rough diamonds to gleaming success stories.
So we signed to this label. This is '03. We signed to this label. I graduated in '02, spent about 8 months in radio, and I understood how radio structure worked. Then we get signed to this label. So now I'm seeing how the industry is working. We're traveling. You won't believe the artists. Like we met some, I mean, man, we're all over the country.
Yeah.
We did a show one time. Newsboys was there. Mercy Me was there. I mean, it was a huge show in Washington State. There's like 80,000 people there,
Wow.
and we're watching how the industry works. And this is what I found out. This is why I stopped doing Christian rap. Is the industry is the industry.
Yeah, I do. No matter which way you label it,
The
from what
industry is
I
the
understand,
industry.
yeah.
And I was like, man,
Jesus doesn't always lead the it's money's money,
Nope.
right?
Hey man, listen. Now you got some people with some integrity out there.
Right, yeah,
You
for sure.
do.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was you'd be amazed at the names that were blocking our label in stores and different things like that. Because at the time, having CDs, shelf space was everything.
Oh yeah.
End caps were everything. And so when our distribution company is calling us, calling the CEO, and the CEO said, "Hey man, this major artist is blocking our distribution in this store because our albums come out today and his album's coming out today."
Which one's going to make us the most revenue?
And he's
Yeah.
like, and their distribution is calling our distribution saying, "Hey man, you got to push that back."
Wow.
And we like, what you like, and it was crazy. And I'm looking at how artists was moving at shows, and man, it's groupies everywhere, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't, I don't want that. If you go, I want to see the snake.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I'd rather be in the industry
Right.
and see the snake than be over here. And now I'm thinking, because I had a guy tell me one time years ago, because I was in radio, I'm listening to all this secular music, and I'm like, dang, I'm gonna see if I can work at a Christian radio station.
Yeah.
And we sat and talked in his office. He said, "Chris, let me tell you something." He said, "I'll be honest with you. You're not gonna make me any more money working here. And for our and what this is what he was explaining to me. You got pop, you got top 40, you got R&B. These genres and these stations are built on their specific, like rhythmic, and his station was not Kisser. Kisser was not his station. The crowd, I, I'm there because I'm feeling convicted for listening to the music.
Right. Right.
He's not. He ain't in business for that. He told me, he said, "Chris, if I was you, I would stay at Kisser as long as you can to learn the industry."
Yeah.
And I did, and it was some of the best advice that I got because I got to learn, understand the sales part of it, and understand, um, quarter hours and different things that make a radio station work the way it needs to work. And I have a good relationship with Kisser now to this
Right.
day.
So this is where your business.
Not even then.
Not even then.
Not even then. I ended up, but I'm looking back.
Yeah.
You see the crumbs.
You see, yeah.
From the bubble gum to you see the crumbs.
So you're
looking
working
back.
your way up to it, see.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a hell of a workup too.
You don't even know what you're working up to.
No.
But you're getting.
Do you ever feel like right now, like like you said, you just turned 40, right? You feel like you're behind?
No, I used to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to, and I'll remind me. I'll touch on that.
Okay.
So you're working at, so you've got Kisser going, you're working there, we're doing the rap thing. You
Yeah.
slowly get out of the rap thing, right?
Well, so I left Kisser
Uh-huh.
in '03, the spring of '03, the fall of '03. We're signing the record deal.
Okay.
So 04, '05, '06, we're traveling all over the
Okay.
country
Doing
doing
that.
these shows.
Now 06 is when, I was about 04 to 06 is when I knew of you. And I had
Yes.
your CD and all of that in Arkansas. And
Yes.
I knew there was a rapper, a local rapper that was doing big things. But there wasn't social media, so I didn't really
Yeah.
I wasn't being able to keep up with you in that.
I think MySpace was just now a
MySpace
thing.
was just going, yes,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but we what happened was the Bobby Lopez came in because we got back home and what we realized was the industry was the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Two Trey was doing beats, doing graphic design. We didn't. The thing we needed the label for was they was paying for the hotel room. They was paying for getting us to the shows and yeah. And so that we didn't have that exposure until we got on the label.
But what people don't realize is that the label is also making money off of you,
Man,
right?
they was getting paid, and
I mean, when you think you made it to like you think small town,
Like, you see
oh, they just signed a label.
well, we didn't see the money in the sense of they cut us checks. We saw the money in the sense of you got food to eat while
And you
you
get your travel and hotels. But what
Yeah.
we're seeing here is that this local rapper
No.
signed a label.
Mhm.
He's big time.
No,
He's big
so
money. But
this is what I learned
Legos were
later.
like bigger.
It's the same.
It's the
because
same,
the industry's the industry.
Yeah.
And the difference between us and a lot of other artists, music is a Ponzi scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got artists that don't own their rights because the label funds you and the label owns the publishing.
I learned a lot of that off of the NWA, like documentaries
Yes.
and stuff.
And everybody gets took on publishing.
TLC, all that.
Everybody except us. We never got took on publishing because we owned our publishing going into the deal.
Smart.
Yeah, that's the one thing we didn't know about the business piece of it. We did know that these records that you're hearing from us that we own. Actually, Two Trey owns the majority of the publishing because he signed up as a composer and a writer.
Okay.
So the splits is a 200% split. If it's 100 between the composer and the writer, and so he get 50 for composing and then 25 for writing. If it's me and him, so I get 25 for writing, but he got and then the 50%, the other 100% because there was no publishing company goes to the writer and composer.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? And so we knew that. Right. We, from a business standpoint, we didn't know what the hell we was doing, but we knew that. We knew that we weren't gonna get took on publishing, and so which is different again for us. So once we came back home, it was what do we do now? Mm-hmm. All right. So I said, man, the Christian rap thing, we know nobody really realized what was going on. I said, but the Christian rap thing, it's not gonna be for the direction that we want to go in moving forward. And I said, but what I knew intuitively is that I couldn't move forward with my previous rap name. Okay? Mm-hmm. Because that guy's a Christian rapper.
Gotcha. You had already formed. It's almost like Hootie and the Blowfish. You went from that to being Darius Rucker. Right. It just doesn't resonate well.
It's a hard transition. Yeah. Okay.
And even now these days, you still see him as like front man for Hootie and the Blowfish. You don't see him as Darius Rucker.
That's because the rebrand. So at that point, I'm getting into branding, marketing, color schemes, and so what I told Two Trey, I said, "Listen, Two Trey, I would have a list of these random names. Because growing up, I didn't want anybody to give me a nickname. Because I don't know what it means. Names mean something.
Right, yeah.
And so you're not going to give me a nickname. If you call me something, it's because I called myself that first.
Right.
And then you assume that somebody gave me that nickname. And just about every name that I've had, that I've gone under, means something. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so Bobby Lopez was from a list of names that I just had, that I wrote down. Like if I was going to call myself something, I would do this. Yeah. And but I did it because I knew that it would throw people off.
Right.
Who is this guy? By the time they figured out that Bobby Lopez was Chris Chaney, I had already rebranded successfully as this other rapper.
And you did, because I didn't know who Chris Chaney and Bobby Lopez were the same person.
That's right.
For a long
time.
For
years.
Today's episode wouldn't be possible without one of our amazing sponsors, Franklin for Life, a trucking company steering you towards success. You want to get a hold of them? No problem. 479-384-1586. Thank you, Franklin for Life.
Two Trey was first. He was the first one to start working with Live and getting with even talking to Sims. Me, because again, I come from gang culture. So like once this beef it might not be physical beef, but if the disrespect has been there, it's
you ain't fucking.
nah. So and so when Two Trey, he don't come from that. Like he comes from it, but he doesn't come from it. You know what I'm saying? Like he grew up in some neighborhoods and he had some people around him, but he had a household that embraced a little more wholesome culture. So Two Trey ain't wasn't messed up at all about my reasoning for not dealing with somebody. Two Trey like, dog, that's you. That's a you thing. You gotta deal with that. You gotta handle that. And so when I transitioned into the Bobby Lopez space, it was like, okay, cool. Two Trey, I told you, we were separating at this point. It was Southland. Josh had went to barber school and he was getting his money cutting hair.
That used to
Yeah, that's yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you could correlate that's but that is J Cuts?
Yeah.
The original, like the one before he moved off. Is that Josh?
So when Josh,
I did not have wow.
It was the three of us.
Yeah.
We were on the road and Josh was losing money because we wasn't getting paid like that on the road. Yeah. Okay. And our pay was in the form of this hotel, this food.
Did anyone have families at this time? Like, you know, like a wife or kids or anything of that nature?
Yeah, Josh.
Y'all just like single, just
driving.
Just driving.
We hitting the road.
Yeah.
And Josh was the first one to say, hey man, this ain't cutting it for me.
Right.
And so
now looking back, do you see like,
oh man, listen, Josh, we did what Josh would do. Josh, because he was getting that money. Josh, we was flying to these shows, we was driving to these shows, and Josh was flying to them.
Damn, what?
Yeah, because Josh.
Hold on, back up. Like,
yeah, I'm driving to Cincinnati with Two Trey in a Mercury Mystique.
Why you not flying with Josh?
Because Josh had the money to fly.
Like where was he making his money?
At J Cuts.
Okay, so he
Josh was getting that bread.
So he was cutting still, like as he was rapping.
Yeah, but he could he was getting that bread. Josh cut. I mean,
So was this where
he's like the first business guy in this industry that I knew about that I inspired to be. There's money into because of him.
Listen, but that's the problem. Josh he's an outlier. Josh, and I'll go into that in a second, but at this time, Josh is getting that bread. I'm talking about getting nuts. Josh moving like a dope boy out here. And so he flying to the show because after that, he don't have time to be driving back.
Yeah.
Fly, in and out.
And then client, business flying. But aesthetically, from the outside looking in, like to me, if I'm seeing that, I'm thinking he's up here, you guys are over here, even though y'all are supposed to be this.
That's right. Nobody saw that part of it though. Okay. Wow. Nobody knows that. I don't know how. It's not public like that. Like they didn't know that Josh was flying. They just know we doing these shows.
It reminds me of that scene. I just see the scene from Straight Outta Compton where he walks in and he's eating shrimp and lobster with the manager. Yeah. And they were just eating Fat Burger. And he's like, maybe one day we'll eat I'm just like seeing this moment, like this was happening here at Fort Smith.
Man, look, and so Josh basically just eased out of the group.
Yeah.
Just
he was seeing money coming somewhere else. Yeah.
So then it was Two Trey and I. At that point, for Two Trey, he was like, man, I'm going to do my own thing too. Yeah. So I said, well, listen, Two Trey, do me a favor, because Two Trey had all the recording equipment. I didn't. I said, do me a favor, man, at least record me 1 hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something that I can start pushing and selling, you know? And he said, okay, cool. So we did, that was the first Bobby Lopez, the 8 Block album. Mm-hmm. Then I dropped a couple mixtapes. We attempted to come back and do some Southland stuff. So there's two Southland albums that's not out. Mm-hmm. One, what we ended up doing was, because of the contract was 1 year plus 2 1-year options. We thought the option was for us to leave or go. The option was whether they kept us or dropped us.
Oh, okay.
And we was getting that bread for them. You talking about 2 shows. We would have a show on a Friday, have a show on a Saturday. But the show on a Friday might be in Cincinnati. The show on Saturday might be in Lansing, Michigan.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Or we might be in West Virginia and gotta be in Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no breaks. It's boom, boom,
yeah, we was driving. Mm-hmm. We had to be in Sacramento one time, and it was a straight through shot on I-80.
So why? The label didn't supply y'all a plane to go back and forth with that?
Man,
Because that's some long driving.
Well,
Man,
because I am into stuff like this. That's pretty typical from my understanding. I mean, you
yeah,
even
but the
see.
label owner was with us.
Okay, that was my next question.
okay, so
Did you
like,
somebody
The label
that-
owner was with us. The CEO was with us.
Okay.
He was like because we would. Well,
So he was the driving.
he was driving too.
It wasn't like a bus scene where y'all had
We
to
had
go
a bus, but
Okay.
it didn't make sense for us to have a bus.
Which is 2 people.
Well, it was like 10 of us.
Oh, in your, I got you.
So it was three of us from Arkansas.
Okay.
There was 3 people from
So
Mississippi.
it's
so it's like a
under
little like
label.
tour, like
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of different groups from this
Yeah,
label.
2 cats from Chicago, 1 cat from
Y'all
North
are all
Carolina,
going to this show.
this
like
cat from Delaware.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean? And these guys, we talk about personalities. But
Yeah.
man, listen, I love those guys. That was some of the best times of my life because I'm meeting guys that like, but I would have never knew these guys outside of just
Right.
this situation.
And they didn't have social like you had AOL.
Yeah.
Do you know where you can meet people? So you're meeting cats from all
over the country. I have friendship with people to this day because of that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how this stuff is the full circle of it. So anyway, so we're all over the country. To trade, the thing that we did not do was make connections at these conferences.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Kill does. Had we made connections at these conferences, we could have came back home, reached out to these people at these conferences, and kept everything going.
So that was kind of before networking was a big.
We didn't realize it.
That networking.
Because you remember, y'all know Lecrae.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Lecrae and I used to talk to Lecrae every other week. This was before he popped. We were doing festivals. Lecrae was doing camps. In the Christian scene, you got church groups,
camps and
festivals, and camps.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And at the festivals and camps, that's where all the youth pastors are. You get their information, so when they go back to their church, now you can come to their church. Yeah. All right? I didn't realize that then.
Right.
Lecrae knew it because he was hitting these camps. And anyway, so that's how long ago this was. But the timing of it, because Lecrae and I, literally, I'd call, hey, man, what's happening? Hey, man, what you doing? We in New York. Oh, I'm in such and such. Oh, okay, cool, man. I just want to touch bases with you, you know. And then, of course, we went this way and he went that way, you know. And I'm not mad at that, but it just shows when it comes to the consistency piece of it, he understood a lot. Actually, he signed, I don't know if y'all remember this group, but it's called Cross Movement. Cross Movement was like the New York version of the label that Wise was on. Mm-hmm. So they were like the New York, this was the Louisiana or whatever. So anyway, Cross Movement screwed him over. And that's why they anyway, he tell it, y'all can Google his story, but
yeah.
But he but anyway, so I went to Trey recorded me an album. So then what I did was I started plugging into community events around here.
Right.
And because I wasn't cussing in my music, I could rap at the library.
And this is when you were by yourself?
Yeah.
Now let me ask you real quick before we step forward. If you had to give anybody advice now for music, anybody local wanting to jump into the music scene, would you encourage them to sign a label contract, go that route, or would you do it more independent? If you had to give anybody advice, what direction would you tell them to go?
My first question I would ask them is where they want to go.
Right. Okay.
What's the long game? Because any advice that I'm giving, it's not based on where you are. It's based on where you want to go.
Right.
You know, and so, I told a kid one day, he said, he just turned 21. He and I got the same birthday. I grew up with his mom. And I told him he's a rapper here in town. And I said, man, what you want to do, man? I said, you only want to make some money? He said, yeah, I want to make some money. I said, if I'm you, with what I know right now, I'm rapping about financial intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because at that point, you can get into colleges, you can get into high schools, you can, because I've rapped at places that a rapper, I've rapped at places that some rappers have never been able to rap at because of the lyrical content.
Right.
And I've written records that put me in spaces that really, where I'm at now, I have relationships now, business-wise, that I met through music.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Different relationships where I've said, hey, man, I wrote this record for this organization. I wrote this record for this organization. And now when I step on the scene, they're like, hey, man, that's great. Now they know I'm a businessman. They know what I got going on because just like all of them, my path, Two Trade's path, Josh's path, it was the path of a rapper.
Right.
You get out the hood.
Mm-hmm.
you do your music and you parlay music into business. And that's all we did.
Right.
Was parlay the music into business. And the thing that got me into being an entrepreneur was I was still trying to do music, but I couldn't afford to do music cleaning toilets working for somebody else.
Right.
You know, but one, I couldn't afford because your brother then they was busting heads. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, you to get T Sims on the track, you got to pay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To get live, to do video, get your kid in to do video, you got to pay. We didn't have them video.
Right.
We had, you know, we had a studio. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't have to pay for that. Two Trey did the graphics and the beats, so we didn't have to pay for that. But you want them visuals? That's the thing that that set them apart early was they realized not just the beats, not just the studio, not just but to capture the corner of the market on visual.
The appeal.
Yes.
That was back when music videos were.
Yes.
I mean, you watched it Saturday mornings when you're getting ready for whatever. I mean, you watch music videos all the time.
We wasn't thinking nothing about that. Live and then came in, and they changed the game with the videos.
I worked
It's almost like
sets before with the music videos and stuff.
Man, that dude's a genius.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Kanye in his not crazy, but like in the genius part
like
of
a little ahead of his
time.
Yeah,
I mean he's been ahead of his time.
Yeah. And I remember that from high school, but I just remember music videos were such a big thing. You had TRL Live, you had BET, you know. Well, and I feel now it's like, you know, Vivo I think is huge on YouTube and stuff like that. So now you've got to have like the setting behind the music to actually see it, and that's a big deal. And that's where the money comes from.
When I started doing that, we knew that was like, man, he's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
You know, because to be able to just scrape up the money, I always thought that outside of us going back and forth, I always thought they had the number, like the amount of people that from a team standpoint that they could take that team and go to the next level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So you're looking at like local. So now you're like looking at local things as Bobby Lopez by yourself. What can I get into? Because I remember, and we talked about this earlier. I remember being at the annual Kisser Kite Flying Frisbee, which used to be a huge thing. I think before COVID happened, it kind of.
But again,
but that was a big deal.
That's a relationship because I had built with
Kisser.
When I worked for Kisser. Yeah. You know, I was volunteering for stuff. I was at the I was in spots the Jet Setters Ball before I was 21.
Yeah.
Because I worked for the radio station. You know what I'm saying? So and I one thing that I've never been scared to do is work.
Right.
And I kept that relationship, and so
you don't burn bridges.
No. And so any of those shows that I
full circle.
It's crazy.
It sounds too small to burn bridges with anything.
It's crazy because even the fair, doing the shows at the fair, all that was my relationship with Kisser.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
back then Kisser ran a lot of things locally. Kisser, Jet Setter, the fair, the
kite flight. So that's 3 events right there. Yeah. That annual event that you get 2,000-3,000 people at one time, and now somebody's in the audience. And I'm talking about Kisser. Kisser looked out for me in ways like. I remember one year I was at the fair, and I'm like, now I got product because we looking at products. Now I'm thinking product like I was thinking bubblegum. Mm-hmm. All right, I got these many CDs, 2 Trey. I got 100 CDs out here. I got 50 T-shirts, whatnot. And the people at the fair, they wanted a piece of my table.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'm like, I'm getting a piece of my table. But Big Dog, Rick Hayes, he was like, nah. He won't do the show if you get a piece of his table.
Yeah.
And I made like $1,500 that night. And I'm thinking, man, I would have had to give him a percentage if it wasn't for him, you know? And so we're doing the local stuff, the fair, the kite flying, and then there were block parties that my cousin Lee would do. You had the Juneteenth. Mm-hmm. And so I would get plugged into the Juneteenth. So these is 4 events in the annual on top of the smaller stuff that I was doing. And so I'm out here. Now, my issue that I had with guys is I wasn't plugging guys into these events.
Right.
So they would be like, well, you think you got it? And I'm like, what I could never convey was, and that's how me and your brother fell out, because we did a hot record together. It was hot. But what happened was we were at the Juneteenth. They had their set was a different time than my set. Mm-hmm. I knew that, and so the song that he and I did, once I did my track list, I just had my verse on there. it wasn't him as much as it was a couple other guys was like, that's disrespectful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they were like, man, you gonna da. And Terrell wasn't even tripping. But the other guys were, and that's what sparked it. And then his brother's a genius too. So what ended up happening was I'm like, all right, cool. If it's beef, it's beef. So I wrote a record.
So now you're trying to capitalize off this a little
Not
bit.
necessarily capitalize, because these guys, like, they had a couple guys that were in the organization that had that Live. I would never categorize Live or Terrell as a street guy. You know what I'm saying? Coming from that.
Right.
They had guys that, because they loved Live and Terrell, that they would, if it came down to it, they would be the ones.
So he knew people.
Right. So me, I like Terrell and Live. I'm having a problem here. The problem is this guy that keep eyeballing me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's that street mentality that you two have, that these people
and now I'm like, it's you. You the one I gotta watch. So if me and my guy Carlos Cruz, and me and old Chuckles, he came from Yakima, Washington. When he came down here, his mind was elsewhere. Yeah. So he came with the BS. He one of my best friends. So me and Carlos is like, man, you want me to go sock you? I'm like, no, bro.
Oh, I'm seeing the scene here. Like, it's Carlos, like, y'all are cool, but then you got these street guys repping y'all, so you don't have
to. And so it's like,
it's everyone else.
And if you don't think about it, because it's Fort Smith, you think, I know what happened in Fort Smith. No, it happens. I can't tell you how many times where I've had to sit down with a guy and be like, hey, man, I apologize. It wasn't that. This wasn't what you thought. Oh, okay, cool. Because then if it starts to escalate into something else, it's not even music anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's about, okay, you was disrespectful. And so, but what ended up happening for me, because I still write. You know, I got stuff in my phone. I still got my studio. What ended up happening was I went from I said, okay, if I want to fund this rap, you know what I'm saying? If I want to buy, because the beats at the time was $150 a beat. You thought 12 tracks on a CD, you got to put some money behind it, right? So I said, okay, I'm not making enough money on my job to do this. I'm gonna start my own cleaning company. All right. So
this is when
it's perfect. You know why it's perfect? Because when you were like, you know, like in that kind of service, you're behind scenes.
That's seeing you. Now listen, this is the thing though.
Because you got an image to,
and your brother and them had me, bro. When I said the beef that I had with them was so classic, they was putting me on blast for working at like Pizza Domino's, and putting me on blast for working at like Blazing Burrito. They was writing records about that.
Wow.
And I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah. So once I segued into the cleaning, you don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
You don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm still working, because I worked for this cleaning company for a couple of years, and then I started the cleaning company. But I'm like, now I can talk my noise because you don't see me. And the other thing, the thing that I had up, because it was like a 1-up every so the thing that I had so once I started working for the janitorial company, they couldn't see me anymore. I was still working a job, but the thing that I had that leveled me up was when I started my company, because my cleaning company, because at the time, none of us were in business for ourselves.
Right. So now you set the precedence for something way outside of just the rap.
Yeah, it's like, all right, bro.
So here's the
I'm still doing X, Y, Z, and you still but you work for somebody, and I don't.
So now you're like, okay. So do you think that so now we're here, we started our own business, here's the business mentality, so we're coming up from bubblegum to rapping to, you know, Kiss are learning that business aspect. So now it's like something of your own. So now seeing that you own your own business, and now you're using that as kind of weaponizing a little bit in the rap game of saying, you know, you may be rapping, throwing these lyrics out here, but you work for somebody. I don't got to call into nobody.
Because what's going on is they're younger than me.
Right.
And so
I'm going to be your daddy.
No, they listen, I'm telling you, these dudes was disrespectful in the most funny way, because you look back and you're like, I cannot compete with with these antics. Like they didn't come from street culture, so certain things they could say and poke fun at, and the only way, like, I'm like, I can't. I'm like, if I say something, I'm gonna sound aggressive,
right?
And somebody like Terrell's gonna say, "What you so mad for?"
Right. This is all fun. Right.
Yeah, like no, but really, and he's an awesome writer. They made the beats, and they do videos, and now when they construct this stuff, the quality of this, it was. I'm like, where did you? I'm done. I quit. I quit.
Yeah.
You know. So then they were like, "Man, you too old to be rapping." I'm like, "Shit, I can't win."
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So do you think that mentality, because you're kind of migrating out of like, all right, here I am at this age, these young cats coming in saying,
yeah, it's like that.
I have to come to face with, because it is true, right? Like
to a degree, and especially if now around this time, you know, I'm transitioning, so I'm about 30, 29, 30.
But I mean, I think in your 30s, if you can all agree,
listen.
That is time we got to really. It's not cool.
Yes.
Anymore. 20s, you make your mistakes all year.
Yeah,
and then forget it. 30s,
you a local rapper at 30, and you still ain't.
You start really thinking about like the future, your money, like all right,
because 20s you make your mistake. Oh man, in my 20s I did this. 30s, you don't really get that pass.
No.
30s, you got to step up. So we're in our 30s. You started on your company.
Yeah.
Maybe using a little bit of what they're saying as motivation.
Was the motivation was not them, because what happened was when I started listening to these books, because cleaning that allows me to. I'm listening to books all night.
Yeah.
So that's when
audiobooks.
Yeah. That's when my Audible stuff started. Was working for the janitorial company, and so at that point, me and Mike Van, he and we start to kind of patch our relationship, because he was pissed off at me for years. And I'm like, listen, kid, his brother is the one his oldest brother is the one, like, y'all need to sit down and talk. You family, y'all need to sit down and talk. So we did. He put it together, and he's like, we squashed everything. I apologized. I said, this is where my mind was at the time. And he said, man, I understand. Then what happened was, Beezy came to me and he go, well, Mike comes to me and he looking at me and he said, Kinfolk, you need to get that shit right with Live and Terrell. You know what I'm saying? Y'all need to be talking. And so then he gets me in touch with everybody. So we start chatting, like, okay.
So why do you think, let me ask you this, why was mending that relationship so important to you at that time in your life?
To me, it wasn't.
But to everyone else, why do you think that is?
I don't think it was important to them. I would have to ask Live and Terrell. I don't even think it was important. What Mike was, he said, all right, I'm in business for myself. Live is getting into the video stuff. Terrell is off writing records. He write records for some of the biggest names out here. So what you started to see was an evolution of the business piece of what we were doing.
I get it.
And Mike looked at it like, bruh, the three of y'all are making business moves. It's different from just making music moves. So you have a business. You understand things. Live is doing this. Terrell is doing this. Why y'all not talking to each other?
And it's I always, I look at things how, when I was in my 20s going out partying, I would carry myself however. I mean, it was nothing for me to get into a fight, get dragged out. But as I started opening my businesses, I had to look at it. So I don't know who that person knows that could benefit me, or who I know could benefit you. So you kind of have to, networking in a sense. So with these opportunities, you don't know who they may know that might, hey, I got this homeboy of mine back, and you always want to put on people from your town. So
it's a lot of that was happening. And another piece of it too, that was happening was the more I got into business, I would call them and say, hey man, listen, think about this. Make sure you think this through, And we would talk about, I was giving tax advice long before this stuff that you see it online. Like I would call Live and I would say, hey man, listen, bro, you need to keep this in mind when you're moving this way. Or Terrell to come into town and we'd sit there and talk. I say, hey man, we'll keep this in mind. These are some things to da-da-da-da. Even with the music. And
that's crazy when it goes from rap even to real. Not that rapping wasn't real, but like real life shit. Like this is real,
like genuine
shit.
Because what was
real
going on was
shit.
Reach out to them because I don't like for people to be taken advantage of.
Right.
And I didn't want these guys that now we just we're just growing now. We're adult, like we're for real adults.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to be taken advantage of. So I was like, look, any game I got, if you wouldn't listen to me, I'm gonna give it to you.
Mhm.
like
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
and so and then what happened for me is the more business I started doing, the thing about being an artist is you have to be in that creative space, and you have to have that time to be in that creative space. I'm cleaning, and I'm ingesting tons of business stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't even listening to music.
Yeah.
You know, Busy turned me on to Nipsey Hussle, and the only reason I started listening to Nipsey the way I did is because the majority of his lyrics was business.
Business, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so for the longest, Nipsey was the only music that I listened to.
Yeah.
Anybody else felt like it was a waste of my time. It's audiobooks. I listen to politics and Nipsey Hussle. And so I started ingesting all of this information, and I'm like, wait, we moving wrong down here. do this, and then I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, I go talk to Josh at J Cuts one Saturday, and he's telling me his goals. I'm telling him my goals, and I go home and I'm going down the street, and then something tells me, man, you should go to barber school.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm talking to myself because I'm like, that's stupid. Like what? Like I got this janitorial company. I made a lot of money cleaning.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so I was like, I don't need barbering. I don't need to go to school. Like what? And it's like, nah, go to barber school. I'm like, this is stupid. So I called Josh. I said, hey man, I think I'm signing up for barber school. And he started laughing because it was random. The most random thing ever. Called Mike Shelton. Mike, now this thing, see this picture. So Mike rapped. We all rapped together. We were all a part of that group that Josh and Brandon and I left. Mike was a part of that group.
Okay.
So Mike's a barber now. Josh, he'd been a barber, but we all rap. So I called Mike. Say, Mike, man, what you think about me going to barber school? Man, do it. It's a no-brainer. Cool. I go to barber school. So now we're all in the barber space. There are guys that we did music with. It's at least two other guys that we did music with that they're in the barber space too. The thing about the barber space is these barbers move like rappers.
Right.
If you go to a hair show, man, they got Air Forces and Jordans and Blazers. They look like it's an NBA draft.
Yeah, yeah. Barbering is definitely a very different, eclectic group.
Man,
and it's a different, because then you have your male hairstylists who are in their own segue of type of men. But when I think of barbers, that's how I initially, besides like Bobby Lopez, but then I didn't know Bobby Lopez was Chris Chaney.
Yeah.
So I just knew Chris Chaney as the barber.
Yeah.
And I think you were going, when did you go to hair school?
I graduated in 16.
Okay, so I was a little bit ahead of you. So when I had graduated hair school at that time.
Yeah.
And so then I had opened up my own business, and you came out the gate at barber school. And then I started seeing you move differently. Yeah, so what happened was you're the first person I ever saw take hair and like barber in that industry to a business level. So this is what happened. Yeah, you're the first person I saw do that.
You have a book out too, right?
Yes, it's called The Business of Hair. I got a first edition and a second edition of it. And I'll tell you why I wrote that. But what happened was, I get out of school. Now I got a ton of audiobooks. So I'm listening to this stuff, and I'm listening to what's been taught at school. And I'm thinking to myself, this is ass backwards.
You don't get taught anything at school by business.
No, but they brought in
not at all
a couple of people to say things, and I'm like, that's not right. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm the only one in school with the business.
Yeah.
So I got a whole school while I got a business while I'm in school.
Because you went, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like maybe you went into barber school not to just do cut hair, but you did it to be a business person in the. That's how I felt like you went to school for. Not because you just loved hair, but
so you had a purpose when you did this.
Right? I went to be a part of Josh's team.
Oh, okay.
I went to school so I could be a part of Josh's team.
He was the biggest barber shop in town that I knew.
Josh, the reason he didn't grow the way he needed to grow is he didn't have a team. You know what I'm saying? It's different to have people in there.
Right.
The chair is full.
Right.
But man, listen. Well, I'll hit that in a second. But you gotta have a team. You gotta have a team. So I knew Josh didn't have a team. I knew that I could bring the business stuff to his shop. All right. at that time, what the mistake that I made was this: the biggest mistake that I made, and the biggest mistake that we all do is at that time I had my building on 10th Street for my janitorial stuff. I was renting a chair from Josh, and I believed that it was better for me to open up my own shop than to rent that chair.
Yeah.
I could have paid booth rent and the rent for that building and still made more money renting that chair.
I made that mistake too. I thought owning my own business straight out the gate was
yes.
Yeah, because you rent like you pay how much for that chair?
I was paying $8 a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is under that's under $400, under $500 a month.
Yeah.
All right. So, but even then, I was what I was making for my cleaning company and cutting. I could have had my building for janitorial, been renting this, and still made more money. Came out on top. But I didn't. I was like, I'm going to go open up my business. But the problem that I had was I couldn't compute getting $1,000 a month from the chairs.
Right.
Right. And I said 1,000, but like if I had.
That's if you fill your chairs.
If I fill my chairs, it was only me. It was me, Sylvia. She was the first barber I had in Madison. So you had those 3 chairs, but you don't expect for my chair to generate for rent.
No, right.
Because you weren't really cutting. I mean, like,
yeah.
I mean, you were just there to run the shop, right?
Yes. And so then that's Sylvia's chair and Madison's chair, but when nobody coming through the shop, and when nobody come through the door. We sitting there, it's cold, it's wintertime. I'm like, man, we not running the heat. I'm trying to say what's
right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when nobody come to the shop, it wasn't until Mike convinced me to go to No Grease to North Carolina to tour the school he went to and meet his mentors that I realized, commission is how you crack the code.
Yeah. Commission
is how you crack the code. Now the problem with commission is if they're not coming through the door, the shop ain't making money.
Right.
As a barber, in whatever you own a salon, it's just understood that the salon owner is the best person in there.
Yes, absolutely, yes. But here's the thing: it's just like people who in school, and we could have our own podcast about this for sure. But it's like people who graduate school can go straight into instructing. I don't think you should be able to do that. I think you should have field time. Did they change that?
Barbers, at one point, you had to be out for a year to go in and be an instructor. They just changed it back to where they can turn back around.
See, and I think that's insane to me.
Yeah.
But it's like just like salon owners. I mean, I think I was straight out of school for maybe 6 months till I got an opportunity to co-own a salon. Still didn't have the field experience, and I wish that was my biggest mistake because I should have hopped around different salons, gained knowledge, grew, talked to people, and then opened up a successful business.
Yes.
And it was just basically to say, I own my own business. The ego part of it. I mean, but I wasn't the best one in the salon, though.
Yeah, and so what I did, though, was in knowing that I couldn't grow it like I wanted to grow it, if I was booked up and Madison and Sylvia didn't have anybody, I would tell people that Sylvia owned the shop.
So, right. Oh, and it's like for me personally, as a salon owner now of like almost 10 years, if anybody new comes in, I give them out to my people.
That's right.
Even if I'm not eating that week, because I'm still trying to build my, I mean, it's just evolving door. But I never give them, unless they specifically ask for me, I give them out to everybody else. I want everyone to eat before me.
I would be in the back of the building. Yeah. So somebody would come in, they had to go to Sylvia. Madison went to a different shop, but they had to go to Sylvia. When Dalvin came in, they had to go to Dalvin. Yeah. When my brother came in, they had to go. When Josiah came in, they had to go to, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now, though, the thing, though, with growing the shop, what I realized was I said, I can't grow this like I want to grow it without access to a school. Mm-hmm. You know, because I didn't want barbers that had already been out for a while, because most of the barbers didn't understand that I didn't want to run a shop. I wanted to run a business. Right. And this business is so backwards that you gotta when introducing a barber to this information, if they've not heard about this information, you gotta ease them into it. Mm-hmm. You know, and
not to mention how many barbers and hairstylists quit within the first year. I think out of my graduating school, there's maybe I can count 3 of us that still are doing it.
But the expectations aren't real.
Right. They don't educate you in school. That's right. Like I said, I could go off on it. They don't educate you in school like they should.
So like what advice like right now, like do you give barbers right now, like this day and age? Like
know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
See that so when I do my where, why, what conversation, it's where do you want to go? Why is it important to get there? And what can you do right now to get a step closer? Most people, most people, most people's why is their what.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? Because I have the ability to do it. Mm-hmm. Not because I'm doing this for it to take me somewhere.
Or they only have that's the only, like I dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
So I didn't have college. So, I mean, I thought, well, this is where people who don't have a future go to school because it's easy for everybody.
Right.
So it's kind of your last opportunity to do something. So they go into it with no intention. It's just the last option.
You just like, once I learn how to do it, I'll have the ability to do it, and I'll figure out my where after that.
Right.
My question would be, the advice would be in the form of a question. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself if you're 20? Where do you see yourself at 80?
Right.
All right. And
because you don't have retirement in it.
There's a way.
Nobody taught me that. Well, see, nobody taught me that.
That's what I'm saying. And so once you have that conversation, when you like, all right, look, you coming to school. I'll tell students all the time, you coming to school, you quit something guaranteed to come to something that's not guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Just because you know how to cut hair doesn't mean that people gonna sit in your chair. Exactly. So now the question is, where do you see yourself going? Because if you can see yourself going there and your why is big enough, you'll get up and come to work. Mm-hmm. You'll do your what if you can see where you're going.
My purpose was my kids.
See what I'm saying?
That was my purpose.
Yes.
I knew I had to.
That's right.
I knew I had no choice.
That's right.
And I knew I had to get there.
But you were thinking long term. I can't. Over time, I got these kids, and so I could say that you had a where to support your why. Yeah. Because your why was your kids, and you knew you wanted a better situation down the line. Mm-hmm. And so now you got to it.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to be at their events. I knew I wanted flexible hours. But one thing I will say, and I'm sure maybe you can agree with this, if you are in school right now, educate yourself outside of school.
Yes.
When you leave that building, start to learn about business.
I had a student tell me that they didn't want to. They didn't sign up for business school. Yes,
anything.
Most of the reason I wrote the Business of Hair, the first book, was during COVID. Everybody was closed. Yeah. And it was a mess, man. My business was set up in such a way that I could benefit from everything. All the money they was giving out from COVID.
Yeah.
Man, listen, we was eating.
Yeah.
One of my mentors hit me up because he knew the name of my company. And so, because all the stuff was public knowledge, PPPs and all this other kind of stuff. And I was able to get all of that and not have to pay it back because the business was structured the right way. So I wrote the Business of Hair to say, hey, look, if this happens again, these are some things that you can think through. I didn't realize that how on point I was until I decided to go in to be a tax consultant. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up in Atlanta last year with a room full of tax professionals that's been doing taxes forever. And they were trying, I was talking to a lady the other day, one of my friends in my network, and she said, I was trying to figure out who you were. Because they were like, there's no way that you know that much about taxes and you've never done taxes. Mm-hmm. And I said, it was out of necessity.
Yeah, man, because you blew me away. And I was like, well, how's this guy know all this information?
Man, I
studied. It's out the blue.
Yeah, so it seems like it's out the blue until you know that
That's because you move so silently. You just keep popping out like, this is what Chaney's doing now. This is what he's doing now. I'm like, what the heck?
Yes, but it all's birthed out of necessity, and so the cleaning, I got tired of trading my time like that for money when I can make this when I can net the same amount of money with less effort. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Work harder or work smarter.
Yeah,
harder.
And that's what barbering did for me. And then, but when I realized that the business there was no structure, business structure in the mom and pop spots, like. This is the question, and you think through it. You got Supercuts, Sport Clips, Great Clips, all of these corporate entities. Mm-hmm. Lloyd, what makes me think that me opening a shop on 10th Street is going to be a better business than this business that already exists? These are national brands that already exist. What I should be doing is saying, how do they work? Right. All of those shops are commission-based shops with retail. Mm-hmm. and they, you know what I'm saying? They're commission-based shops in retail, all of them. And because I had people arguing with me about commission, I'm not gonna argue with how you choose to own your job, because when you're self-employed, you just buy a job.
Right.
When you're employed, you get paid to come to this job. When you're self-employed, you pay to go to work.
Right.
Which makes zero sense on the surface. However, it's those risk takers that move faster into the business column and the investor column.
Why do you think that though?
Because if you're willing to take the risk, then this is the key is Robert Kiyosaki has a book called The Cash Flow Quadrant. E for employed, S for self-employed, B for business, I for investor. The employee says they want to start a business, but they don't realize that in starting a business, they go from employed to self-employed. The key is to get out of the self-employed part as quick as possible. Because that's the rough space right there. But if you can figure out, and I know how to do it, but if you can figure out how to be a business or go back and work for yourself, self-employed people, the majority of them don't work for themselves in a literal sense. They don't. I get a W-2 at the end of the year from my company.
Okay.
I work for the company.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
Right.
I'm employed by the company.
Right.
I'm not self-employed.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I figured out, oh snap, the key to business is going from employed to business. I went from employed to self-employed. I need to go back to employment, then get to business.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Do you think your brand? I think now with like social media and everything, being your own brand is big with, especially hair salons and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think with your history and already having your name out there and being your own brand, like Chris Chaney is a brand, I feel like, do you think that helped set you aside from the Smart Cuts, Supers, all of that, because people already knew who you were?
So no, because what we're talking about is the back end of the business, right? So like, most of these shops aren't sustainable shops. Mm-hmm. They just don't make sense,
right?
Like, because of how they're positioned. One, they're paying for it out of their pocket.
Yeah.
Most of these companies, they have shareholders.
Right.
Which is partnership.
And they're in Walmart, most like Walmart or Target, like they're in these big corporate buildings as well too.
Yeah. But that's still partnership.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so it's like, partnership is the key here. It's not me saying that I'm going to go open my own business and then I'm going to outdo. Yeah, you might outcut the person that cuts at that spot. But that person that cuts at the corporate spot is in a better position than you, because at least they have retirement, at least they have benefits, at least they have if they don't meet the commission, they have an hourly rate until they hit the commission, and then they get paid. Like, that's the business model for all of them.
Right.
But what people on the outside are seeing is, why am I giving, when you can go booth rent over here, you make 100% of your money. But when you go to a corporate place like that, why am I giving these people money? But they're not seeing it.
You don't make 100% of your money, because by the time you go and try to buy a house.
Oh, well, I had major knee surgery, and I've been doing hair for over 10 years. I'm not making any money right now. Yeah. I make money off my booth renters, but that's not enough to sustain my life. So when I'm done and I walk out of that door, when I say my body can't take it anymore, that's it for me. I've got nothing. I have no insurance, nothing.
That's the conversation that's not being had.
Yeah.
Because in the barber space specifically, you have barbers talking about being $100,000 barbers, six-figure barbers. That's $100,000.
Right.
You know how I could tell you how to make $100,000. Get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and leave at 7 o'clock in the evening.
Oh yeah, I mean,
make the $100,000.
I'm making money, and I'm thinking this is like y'all want to get a piece of this. But when I'm out,
that's right.
I'm done.
So now the question is,
how do you make money not doing shit?
You convert this $100,000. Well, if you move right, you're gonna be taxed on about $92,320 of that money, and then there's another 15.3% that's coming off of that when you come to self-employment taxes and stuff like that. So these people are getting that. The self-employed people, most of them aren't reporting their income because, one, they're scared. They're scared of the IRS. And they're not reporting their income because they're not educated. And they don't know that the IRS, the Internal Revenue Code, is a big incentive program. It's a huge incentive program, and they say one, people who are self-employed, people who work for money pay more taxes than people who don't work for money.
That's true.
So the penalty you're penalized for working.
Right.
The tax code is set up for investors. So if you're going to work to invest.
Okay.
Because that's where that's why real estate people, they're investors. That's why you get, if you're in the markets, they have things called accredited investors. If you're an investor, you're gonna get more perks from the tax code than you will if you're not an investor. And so now it's people are making this money, and they don't know that they don't know about standard IRAs or SEP IRAs or simple 401ks, that if I owe the federal government the standard IRA, the standard Roth caps for tax year 24 is $7,000. So they don't know that if I owe the IRS $7,000, that before April 15th, if I got $7,000 sitting in an account, I can pay myself and not the government. They don't know that.
Yeah.
Now, what did you just do? You just invested that money. So that's why you don't have to pay the government, because you just used an incentive piece from them, and it's in there. It's in black and white. They don't know that an HSA, a health savings account, is a tax deferred account. Why? Because the government wants you to invest in your health. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there are different things that you can do that you need anyway. Listen. I was talking to a guy and I said, "Hey, are you saving for your daughter's college?" Not yet. Okay, the tax bill that you got can be lowered with a 529 college plan. Now that's a tax deferred account. Now you're saving for college, and you're doing what the government wants you to do. So now you get incentives there. There are things that you can do to lower your tax liability without spending for the sake of spending. The IRS frowns on people who write stuff off so they don't have to pay the government, right? They don't like that. And so if you're gonna spend the money, spend it in such a way that it's an investment, that it comes back to your business. Right? Now watch how this money disappears. You can hire that child, pay them a reasonable wage. What's $11 an hour, $12 an hour in Arkansas? Pay them a reasonable wage up to the limit, all right? That money is tax-free to the kid. That money is tax deductible to the business, all right? Now, you already got to buy the kids clothes for school.
Yeah.
So now that money disappeared 3 times, because that the school clothes ain't come out of your money. It's coming out of this kid's bank account. Also, that kid can have a Roth IRA depositing money into that account, and that kid could potentially have a whole life insurance policy that they can fund from their.
Wow.
So now that kid is being set up at 18 to move in financial independence, because the parents were financially literate to understand that the tax code is your friend.
So.
Damn.
I mean, and I've seen that. I'm blown away. There's just so much to grasp onto. So you've dove into this business, saying you're here, and this is an evolving door, right? Yes. I mean, you're constantly growing, and so what do we expect to see from Chris from today? What do we expect to see from you from here on out?
Let me say this, and I'll answer that, because I get passionate, and so what we didn't do, I just realized what we didn't do is we didn't connect where business consulting and tax planning came in at. As a barber, in business, you tend to attract what you are.
Right.
My customers, the people that came to me, were small business owners, community leaders, and young professionals. All right?
Because shop talk's a thing.
That's right. And this is what we talked about every day in the barbershop, every single day. And when the people would come to me, this guy that owns a pressure washing company, I'm cutting his hair, or this young lady, that she has this business, but I'm cutting her son's hair, and I'm hearing about these problems that I got answers to, and I'm like, I can't keep this information to me, even though I'm benefiting. Like the Bible says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." I love these people. I care about these people, and if I have the answer, Lord, I can't tell you I care about you if I have the answer, and I know you're suffering from the answer that I got. I can't. I can't. If I know you have an issue, and I have the answer to that, and I let you suffer, that's evil. You know.
Well, my success weighs no bearing on yours.
That's right, and it's also evil with the parable of the talents. The one buried his, he didn't, and the other one flipped theirs, and the master comes back and he tells the one that buried his talent, you're wicked and evil because you didn't invest. Now, if I cared about you and I didn't talk to you about ways you can invest, then now you're evil. So it's evil on my end and evil on your end. If all you're doing is putting your money, I told somebody the other day, I wouldn't put. A friend of mine was talking about, I'm gonna put some money in a CD at 4%. If I care about you, I'm not gonna tell you to put money in a CD at 4%. If I care about you, I'm gonna tell you, hey, you can put that in a good growth index fund that's tracking the S&P, and the S&P on average is way higher than 4% a year. You know, and these are things that you can put money into that one gives you your retirement, that gives you because you can't outwork compound interest. It is impossible. You can't outwork compound interest. And if I care about you, I'm gonna tell you that. Now the problem is, because I'm so passionate about it, it's you think you know everything. I don't. I just care. I care about you.
And I hope that this podcast, and I hope that those our listeners, I hope that now, seeing the intent and the story behind it, and I think this is why we're doing this, is like, we're not just seeing Chris, the guy who seemingly knows, everything about a lot of things. We're seeing the intent behind it, and that's where the trust comes in.
Yeah, because
you see where the trust is.
The record label, I owed taxes for money that I didn't get.
Yeah. Right.
All right. That was my first.
So you made the mistakes for us.
Yeah.
Essentially, you made those mistakes
forward enough to say, okay, look, because there are things there's a certain thing that's called constructive received and not constructive received. So you can owe taxes for money that you don't physically have right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so what will happen is if I that's deep. That's going to that. I'm not going to go into that. So moving forward for me, where I'm at is I say, okay. The hair space, I have a soft spot for the hair space. I have a ministry background, of course, but I'm also into community, which is basically politics.
Right.
All right. The barber is the cross between the pastor and the politician. They both come get their hair cut.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so when it comes to influencing policy, public policy, and when it comes to influencing, and especially Black culture, the church, the barbers, right, is the middle person there, right? And so being a barber, that's why I enjoy being a barber, because people say, man, why you ain't in ministry? I'm still in ministry, bro. Like when this person is talking about committing suicide.
Right. I know where you're headed, because I feel like I came from worked at a psychiatric hospital prior to doing hair. And I'm still doing the same thing I was doing.
Yes.
I'm still a therapist. I know everyone's marriage. I know what their we are the safe space for them to tend to tell their deepest, darkest.
And the thing that,
because we spend a lot of time.
Absolutely. And you spend more time often with them than you do with your family.
Absolutely.
And the icing on the cake here is we didn't come from households that talked about money. So now
we were just surviving.
That's right.
I know my mom was a waitress. She worked, lived off tips and raised me and my brother. And she was robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That's right.
She was just surviving.
And I like to tell people, I talk money because I was not taught money. Okay?
Yeah.
And now, because the barbershop is the safe space, for you to tell me, if you come to the barbershop and you tell me, man, listen, I just don't understand how money works, that takes a level of humility for you to tell me that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But is it always the people? Like, one thing I love about you is that, I can't look at you and say one way or the other if you have $1 million in the bank or if you have $1 in the bank. Because I think that if you had $1 million in the bank, you would still carry yourself, because money to you is an investment. It's futuristic.
That's right.
And it goes back to the street days of the guy wearing the Tommy Hilfiger and the guy wearing the. So your mentality started from that point, from that moment of who you want to be when you represent. I'm sure you can go buy a snazzy suit and wear this, $2,000 suit and talk, and people see that and they're like, oh, I want it, because a lot of people are materialistic. But what you're showing is, here is a way for you to live easier and happier and healthier. And if we had those people around, but I think if we were all happier financially, the world would be happier financially.
And it's like, that's the part that it hurts my soul, because if I have an answer and I care about you, I'm going to tell you what this is. And when you look at, most people don't know how to write a budget, how to work a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, most people don't know that a savings account is a terrible investment, but a great place for an emergency fund.
Right.
If you got 3 to 6 months living expenses and it's parked in a savings account because you got easy access if something happens, anything over that needs to be in a growth account, because you can't outwork compound interest. Mm-hmm. All right. But also understanding how the tax code works. So once you make money on that compound interest, you're not getting raked over the coals come tax season. Mm-hmm. You hear people say millionaires have multiple streams of income. What we do in the multiple streams of income is we do multiple things for income. Mm-hmm. That's not multiple streams of income. That's all earned income. You got earned income, you got passive income, you got dividend income, you got royalty income, you got rental income, you got interest income. And so once you realize that these are the different type of incomes that these rich people have, and so you got the rental property, got that, you got, and then you can start to move in a different way, and it doesn't matter the avenue you use. I just went from radio, rapping, janitorial, barbering into this business consulting space, because to me it's all the same. I'll tell you a funny story. When I got into the building that I was in on 10th Street flooded. Mm-hmm. Floods all the time down through there. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I was able to stay in that building as long as I did is because I had all the janitorial equipment to clean up the water.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't see the connection until you see the connection. I had all the janitorial. So once that building flood, the water subside, I got vacuums, mops, we back in business. Mm-hmm. And so, but ultimately my desire, again, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. It's simple. It's not easy, because the answers are there. It's just putting the answers, putting it into play. And we think a lot of times that we're not making enough money, but if you don't know how much money is coming in, of course, there's an app called Rocket Money.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
Rocket Money hurt my feelings. Mm-hmm. Because you connect all your stuff to it, and you see where every dollar is going.
Yeah.
You in business, there's Wave and there's QuickBooks, and a couple, there's a business bank account called Lily. It's an online bank account, but it comes with a kind of the pro feature comes with a basic tracking what your business spending. So if you got QuickBooks, Wave, Lily, business, then you got Rocket Money for your personal, you'll see where every single cent is going, and you'll be like, hey, I can trim the fat here and do this. Absolutely. And now we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul, because we see exactly where every dollar is coming and where it's going. Because money is a tool. And when that dollar comes in, when you create a budget, I heard this the other day on the radio listening to Dave Ramsey's show. When you create a budget, all you're doing is giving that dollar a name, telling that dollar where it's going to go next. Okay, this 10% of this is going here. Okay, now I know if I make 4,000, 400 is 10%, 400 of that is earmarked for this. If my rent is 1,500, now I'm at 3,600, and 15 of that 36 earmarked here. Once I start to trim the fat, and then anything left over, I'm saying, okay, what's my emergency fund? Am I there? And then anything left over from there, I'm not putting that in my 10% account. I'm putting it in a different account, because my 10% account is for investing.
Wow.
And then you start to have these buckets, and now you have a clearer picture. And then you look, you say, I might need to go get a second job.
Yeah.
Just to make this make sense.
But you have to have a purpose.
That's
you have to have a why. So all of this story, all of this coming together, where can people, you've written books, where can our listeners and our viewers go to contact you to learn more about this topic? Because I feel like we could spend
hours
and hours and hours, right?
That's right, too.
And I love it.
Anytime me and Lloyd talk, it's
it's forever, right? Yeah. So to kind of, put everything wrapped up into perspective, where can our viewers and our listeners contact you, read your stuff, and maybe, just like a brief, tell them what you like to listen to that's inspired you. So where can our people contact you, read your books, maybe, if they want to get a hold of you, say, hey man, I'd love to work with you. What advice do you have for me? What you got?
I'm on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? I'm TikTok.
TikTok. Now, do we TikTok? We do something like dance.
No, I don't do that. I don't do no dancing. Leave that to the dancer. My brother's the dancer. I believe that to him. No, so I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Tell
Chris
me your
Chaney.
handles. What is your
V Chris Chaney, TikTok and Instagram. Chris Chaney on Facebook. My books are on Amazon. You can type in Chris Chaney, or the first book is The Business of Hair: An Entrepreneur's Perspective. I have a first and second edition of that. I have another book called The Journey Within. That was an interesting book because it's a parable. It's going to be a 3-part series: where, why, what, and the where part of it is the journey within. Mm-hmm. And then I have a goal setting journal. That's on Amazon, and then 2 affirmation books, because one is for business and one is for personal. And the business one was business or the workplace. A lot of times Monday morning comes around, you're like, I do not want to go on this job.
Yeah.
Well, I got a book with affirmations to give you a little more peace of mind and how to think about your job, because the reality of it is you can get to the investor and business column faster on somebody else's dollar than you can on yours. Mm-hmm. And so I would never encourage somebody to start a business. If I can discourage you from starting a business, you don't need to start it.
Yeah.
But if I can't discourage you, I'll jump down in there with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so the easiest way to be an investor, because understand that if you got Walmart stock, you own Walmart.
Right.
So you listen, you already own a business if you own stock. Mm-hmm. You can say, hey, I own several businesses: Walmart, Apple, Sony, Nike. If you invest in these companies, people say, man, I don't understand investing. I don't know how to invest. Invest where you spend.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to say that. Invest where you spend. If you like Apple products, you should own Apple stock.
Gotcha.
If you like Nike products, you should own Nike stock. If you don't know specifically, you don't want to deal with a specific stock. They have what they call large cap, mid cap, small cap funds that have all of these businesses in one. Mm-hmm. So you can do fractional investing. You can take $1, buy a piece of stock, or you take $100 and buy an index fund. Then between the index fund and the mutual fund is mutual funds. There are physical people trading that, and so you got to pay the fees to them. So over time, you may make the same amount of money on an index or a mutual, but you don't pay the fees on the index fund. So that's why I push index funds. But if you don't want to do any of that, find a financial advisor.
So is this what you're talking about now? When people contact you, is this is this the reasons why they can contact you?
Yeah, because and I sit down with people all the time with consulting wise, and but by the time they come to me, I really wish they would come sooner. Because by the time they come to me, it's me telling them, well, that problem could have been fixed if you had done X, Y, Z. So moving forward, you may need to consider X, Y, Z.
Right, and you're kind of working a little bit harder to make up, but there's a way to make up for it.
Yeah, there's a way to make up for it. Now, you might pay them. You might. I don't know. You still owe what you owe.
Yeah.
But moving forward, man, we can reduce this, put you in position to do this, and then have your business. I mean, and now it's automated for the most part.
Right.
But it's streamlined. Your investing is streamlined. Everything is streamlined from this point forward. And now it takes the guesswork out, because people don't move because they don't have a where. Mm-hmm. We fear the unknown is what's going on. Yeah. Right? It's like, I don't know. So I get that. So,
man, Chris, let me tell you, like, I am so grateful to have you on the show. I knew it was going to be great.
It's been amazing, bro.
But this has just been. So I'm going to need an appointment. I'm going to book an appointment.
Yes.
And I'm here. So, yeah. But I just want to tell you, like, first off, thank you so much for opening your heart, your past, your things that maybe would be hurtful to even kind of bring up. I know we talked about, man, I hadn't thought about this in a while.
Yeah, so my mom,
therapeutic.
Mom told me, she said, we were talking one day, she said, Chris, you need to be more open.
Yeah.
I said, well, Mama, listen, I never, there's certain things that I never talk about because I don't ever want it to feel like it's an attack on you, because it's not. Oh. It's just a
part of your story.
Yeah.
And and the truth is the truth, whether it's good or bad.
And she didn't mind. She said, man, Chris, I completely understand. I said, okay, Mom, as long as I got your blessing.
So, real quick on that, is your grandparents, are they still around? Or?
No, they passed away.
Sorry,
they passed away, and my dad got killed in 2016. So it's just my mom left.
So is that relationship kind of mending itself a little bit?
Like, there was a time where I sat down with my mom and I said, hey, listen, we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I want to know why.
Yeah.
Let's talk. And now, I mean, I was gonna say best friends, but we're like best friends. I mean, I can talk to her for hours on the phone, and she's on my payroll.
Wow!
So we
what a full circle moment.
Yes. So she's amazing, and my brother now we're racing to see who's gonna buy her a house first. So
it's like you could have taken a differerent attitude and been like, "You owe me. I don't owe you anything."
No, listen,
that just shows your
I want to give her the world.
Wow!
If I can give her the world, I'll give it to her. I'm gonna damn sure try.
Man, thank you so much, Chris, for opening your heart, your life. And I want everyone to understand that it takes a lot to, when you hear podcasts, you see people in there, we're seeing celebrities, people we don't know personally, but, you don't know who can listen to this and pass you at Walmart.
Yeah.
And I hope that people take this. Yes. And I hope people take this side of you, your story, and handle it with care and show compassion and understanding. But now knowing who you are, I got teary-eyed earlier because I would have
it's phenomenal, bro.
I would have never, I would have never have known. And I just want to say, man, from where you came from to who you are today, the sky's the limit for you. And I hope whoever's under you, I cannot wait to see the healing you're going to do for this next generation.
I appreciate that.
So thank you so much, man. And Lloyd, as always, what a pleasure. None of this would have been possible without you, my guy. You're doing your thing. So what a hell of a show.
Yeah.
What a hell of a Here we go. We did it. And Jay,
my brother
behind the scenes, man. Yes. So for everyone following.
Shout out to Jaquil Parker.
Yes, he's behind the scenes, but the man, the electronic guy. But you guys, don't forget to follow Fort Grit on all of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We'll be linking this. We'll also be connected to podcast app for Audible. So if you're janitorial servicing, throw us in your ear. Listen to our guy, Chris Chaney, with the best advice. Reach out to him for any future advice. You know where to find him. And as always, guys, we'll see you next episode. Hey, go. Status.
Today's episode would not be possible without our sponsors. Today's sponsor is Stainless Innovations Designs and Fabric Custom. It's an equipment for front and back of house food service faculties across America. Headquartered here in Fort Smith, Arkansas. To get in contact with them, 479-783-1900. Stainless Innovations, thank you for sponsoring our podcast for today.